Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts, sports journalist David Todd, and from SteelersDepot.com, Dave Bryan. Just a couple of Daves, chillin', talking Steelers. Now, here's Dave and Dave.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, another special edition of the Terrible Podcast. I'm Dave Bryan from SteelersDepot.com. It is August the 2nd, 2018. It is 6:30 in Las Vegas, Nevada, and that means it's 9:30 where my co-host Alex Kozora is just outside of Pittsburgh. Alex, happy Thursday. Happy NFL preseason football. I'm sitting here watching the first half of the game, Hall of Fame game between the Baltimore Ravens and the Chicago Bears wind down. 10-7 Baltimore right now, and hopefully we can get this wrapped up. I look forward to watching some Lamar Jackson in the second half.
That's what I was going to say, yeah. I mean, I know it's Baltimore, but I'm really excited to see Jackson. I think they got a good player in him, and a really good day of practice today. And then tomorrow, obviously Friday Night Lights, one of the best practices of the year. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, let's try to roll through it, I guess, a little bit quicker because there is some football we want to watch tonight. There is the Friday Night Lights practice tomorrow. So let's start with the housekeeping right away here, and let's talk about the players that did not practice. Vance McDonald with a foot, T.J. Watt with a hamstring. That makes a couple or more than just a couple of days that they've been out. Alejandro Villanueva, shoulder slash bicep. I don't think we officially really know what it is, but it's enough to keep him out of practice right now. Morgan Burnett with the hamstring. Sean Davis with a groin, we think, probably still working themselves back. They didn't do really much of anything, to my understanding, during the Thursday session there. Of course, Eli Rogers and Ramon Foster sidelined indefinitely with their knee. Rogers still on PUP. We're not going to see Foster for the rest of the training camp and probably all of preseason as well too. Artie Burns, I think, returned to practice with what we think was a groin injury, and we'll talk about him a little bit later. I think he returned to have a nice practice according to some of the things that you put out on the Twitter machine today. Marcus Tucker had rolled his ankle according to Mike Tomlin, got that taped up, but Mike Tomlin said he didn't think that he was able to finish. And the big news of the day, or at least the media is making it sound like it, Antonio Brown missed a second consecutive practice on Thursday. Mike Tomlin was prodded after practice of what it is. He wouldn't say upper body, lower body, or anything like that. He did say that Antonio went back to Pittsburgh for further evaluation, though. He says it's just a day-to-day thing. And about 40 minutes after Tomlin talked, Pro Football Talk, Mike Florio says a source says that it's a quad strain of some description with Antonio Brown, that he's expected back at practice sooner rather than later. So I wouldn't guess that Antonio is going to take part in Friday Night Lights. So right now, I guess the big names that we need to keep an eye on: Vance McDonald, T.J. Watt, and Alejandro Villanueva, with a kind of a keeping in mind of what's going on with Antonio Brown.
Yep, those are the big things. I also want to add James Washington returned and was full today after leaving apparently with a left foot injury yesterday. I know there was an early report from practice that Washington was not in pads, not initially in pads. Totally false. He was in pads from the get-go. He went full, so that was good to see. And I saw Vance McDonald. I hadn't spotted him the last couple of days. I did see him on the field working with some tight ends. I didn't see a boot or anything visibly wrong with that foot injury, so that's good. Hopefully it is minor. And yeah, and that's where we're at. Davis, Burnett were in pads, did not do team. I think they did individual work, so they're close, but not all the way back just yet.
How would you like to pay a subscription price for wrong information? I'm just saying.
I wouldn't want to do that.
I'm just saying. Okay, a little bit of more housekeeping we have to do here. The Steelers, and it just so happens we talked about this yesterday about really both positions. We said with Ryan Mallett getting dinged up yesterday, and already with Vance McDonald being sidelined, those lines are getting mighty short there. Wouldn't be surprised if they made a roster move. And on the flip side, we said, boy, if there's one position this team is a little bit heavy at right now, it's inside linebacker. Lo and behold, the Steelers made a move. In fact, I think really you were the first to alert people that there are some people and some numbers here that don't look familiar. And it took a little while, but finally the transaction was released. The Steelers signed former Virginia Tech tight end Bucky Hodges, a 6th-round draft pick originally. We'll talk about him in a minute. And offensive lineman tackle, actually, Kyle Meadows out of Kentucky to 1-year contracts. They waived Ryan Mallett, injured. You have to think he's going to revert back to the injured reserve list here after clearing waivers. And they waived Darnell Leslie, a guy that we been talking about quite a bit during this first week of training camp, mostly because of A, he's looked okay, and B, we didn't expect him to be playing inside linebacker. Well, I guess it didn't make a lot of sense in the long run anyway, because he was waived, and that means a couple of guys move up the depth chart a little bit at the inside linebacker position.
Yeah, unfortunately, Leslie loses out to Keith Kelsey and Matt Galambos. As we talked about, I think, yesterday, they had 8 inside linebackers by kicking Leslie inside. I did think he had a nice start to camp, but I did write in my diary for yesterday that he kind of been quieter the last couple of practices. And, I don't think he was hurt. I don't think he played terribly, but it's a numbers game. And when you're heavy at that spot and you're down to 13 healthy offensive linemen, someone's got to go. And I was watching the practice field. I was trying to find who the odd man out or who the number that wasn't there anymore before the team announced it, and I thought I didn't see 49. Leslie's gone, and that's football, unfortunately.
All right, real quick on. No, I don't know anything on Kyle Meadows. I don't know if you do either.
I do not.
I've just seen a little bit of his stuff. I know he played quite a bit of, I think, right tackle. In college there at Kentucky. But I can't tell you anything about him. But I can tell you a whole lot about Bucky Hodges, because I was the one to write up the pre-draft profile on him last year for Steelers Depot. And this is a guy that, a very athletic specimen. In fact, there's so much so that they used him kind of split out more of a wide receiver position, if you will, especially his final year there at Virginia Tech. This is a guy, while he does have some athleticism, he has a nice catch radius, if you will. Can grab some balls way outside of his body. He's got some contested catch ability. However, I was going back through my notes on him. There's not a lot of that shows up on tape over the last 2 years worth of tape that I watched on him. And boy, as a blocker, yikes. He is willing, but there's a difference between willing and being able, and he lacks the able. I do like what he does. I had some notes that I like what he does out in space, trying to wall off, some of them smaller defensive backs there on some of those quick, wide receiver screens and whatnot. But him, when he's asked to line up on the end of the line of scrimmage, Ole, look out. This is a guy that's already had problems sticking with several teams. He was with after being, who was he drafted by? The Vikings, right?
Yes.
The Vikings, and then he spent time on the Panthers practice squad last year. The Jets, most recently of the Jets, and they just recently waived him as well too. So the Steelers are his 4th NFL team in a year and a half, and that's usually not a great sign there. Now, he is a guy I had kind of pegged as a late second, a late day 2, early day 3. He ended up going in the 6th round. So there you go. I know a lot of people are kind of excited about him. And look, is he better than McEvers? Probably. But that's not saying too much. This guy's going to really have a tough road moving forward here. But at least he gets in time to get a week worth of practices, under his belt, and that should make him a candidate to play quite a bit in the Steelers' first preseason game 1 week from tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Two quick thoughts on Hodges. You called him kind of a big receiver. He blocks like it. Him on the sleds today, let's just say the sled won again and again and again. Just no power, no leverage, no pop there. But despite being brand new to this team, they threw him in team drills, and they needed the guy. Needed some help there. So he was out there in team drills trying to pretend like he knew what was going on. But hopefully he progresses pretty quickly here.
Yeah, and you watched a little bit of tape on him. You know a little bit about Hodges, right?
Yeah, but it's fallen out of my brain a while ago. You know a lot more. I know he tested while I looked up his numbers. He ran like 4.57, a 39-inch vert. So there's some impressive athleticism and size at 6'6". But one thing with Hodges though, and I don't compare him to Jake McGee because they're polar opposite players. But Jake McGee got brought in camp halfway through and impressed. So just because you're a guy that comes in midway through camp does not mean you can't make an impact. Justin Thomas, another guy brought in late, stuck around. So who knows what'll happen.
I would gladly trade Hodges to have Jake McGee back.
Ditto.
Right now. Okay, let's get after it here with the offensive line. With Villanueva out, that means Chooks continues to get some decent reps at left tackle there. Mike Tomlin, glad he's taken advantage of some of these reps. To my understanding, though, he had a Bud Dupree problem today.
He's had a Bud Dupree problem for the last 2 days. Dupree's just whooping him time and time again around the edge. Most of it's in T, maybe a little bit in O-line, D-line work. But, you're seeing a starting caliber player right away. You're not seeing a backup anymore. So hopefully that's something that you can grow and get better at. But, yeah, been tough for a core for the last 2 days. Other note I had for the offensive line, Patrick Morris, I thought, did some nice things in O-line, D-line against Javon Hargrave. Parker Collins just struggled against him. I thought Morris fared better, and with some of the injuries, now Morris has basically been running second-team center with Parker Collins kicking the left guard. So a lot of movement with those guys kind of changing spots, and hopefully some more reps as well for Patrick Morris.
And I think I saw Matt Filer right tackle.
Yes, he's been moving all over the place. He's impossible to keep track of, but he did get some work at right tackle today. He's played, left guard, right guard. He's warmed up at center. So as expected, they're trying to play him basically everywhere, and injuries have kind of forced their hand at it as well.
For what it's worth, Mike Tomlin said after practice that he liked the way the interior line handled the interior defensive line in today's practice. Would you concur?
Yeah, no, I think they did a better job compared to some other days. The run session was better. It wasn't perfect, but they were able to kind of at least create some creases and get positive gains on most plays. And some of the issues were from things like tight ends not blocking well. Bucky Hodges had one bad block, and I think McKever as well. So, I think that it's a kind of a competitive, scrappy bunch up front in that interior O-line.
All right. Tight ends. I mean, we already covered that, right?
Yeah.
What's left? I mean, really, just not a lot to talk about at that position right now. Boy, I wanted to see Vance McDonald get back, but I'm guessing it won't be Friday night. I'm going to guess that it won't be by the weekend either. So keep your fingers crossed there. That's just a guess, just pure speculation on my part there. Okay, let's go to running backs.
Don't have a ton of notes there. I thought Stephen Ridley, just a decisive guy, veteran, so you see a difference in the way that Ridley runs versus like a James Summers, for example. But one note I do want to make, two-part thoughts on Jarvion Franklin, the UDFA. Saw a little bit of juice, a little bit of speed for him to work to the outside. One play, we took off down the right side and caught the edge and turned upfield. So a little bit of extra burst that I haven't really seen from him that I like to see. And then he also got work at fullback today with Ryan Malik, who had been the backup fullback behind Rosie Nix. Obviously, he's done. Bucky Hodges is not really a fullback type at 6'6". So Franklin, who's 230, 240, and 6'1", I think, is playing a little bit of fullback. Not really playing it well as expected, but maybe that increases his value and gets him some more snaps.
What do you remember? I'm trying to remember if I knew what Franklin had as far as some explosive runs. The thing, and we talked about this just the other day after that James Conner. What was that run? 50? Do you remember what that run was in practice?
55.
And going back, and I bumped up that post that I don't know if you'd call it surprisingly or not surprisingly, but James Conner had. During that 2000 and what season was it? 2016, right? 2016 season, he had quite a few explosive runs of 20 yards or more, and I'm trying to recall what Franklin had as far as explosive runs go. He had, believe it or not, he had 12 runs of 20 yards or more. Franklin did last year. The year before that, he had 11, and then 6 in 2015, and 13 in 2014. So that's 13, that's 19, that's 30, 42 runs of 20 yards or more for Franklin.
Wow.
During his Western Michigan career. So, yeah, I get the conference that he played in, blah, blah, blah. But, I mean, that's impressive nonetheless, especially for a back his size, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely a downhill guy. But, yeah, I saw a little bit more speed from him. Now, again, work some fullback. But, you have him trying to make it. You got Summers trying to make it. Really, I thought did some nice things in pass protection, too. We got to look at him as a well-rounded back, and you're seeing some stuff there.
Okay, tell me about this bust, James Washington.
Oh, Steelers Nation. No, Washington had a good day. I know it's kind of been up and down for him, but that's expected for a rookie receiver. It's tough for rookie receivers to make an impact and be perfect right away. They're not all, jujus of the world, but making some wow plays. One contested catch along the left sideline against Deshaun Phillips. I think he leapt, made the catch, kind of absorbed the contact, and then, brought both feet in bounds, as a nice sideline catch, and the ref confirmed it was a reception. And then another play, I think it was team drills, where he beat Brian Allen on a crosser, and I think Dobbs' throw was behind him, but he reached his right hand back and one hand snagged it and pulled it in for the touchdown. So you're seeing some high degree of difficulty catches. He's able to make it. Some of the combative stuff, haven't gone his way, but that's expected when you're going to be targeted as much as he's been and put in those situations. Corners get paid too. I'm happy he's back in practice in full. Obviously, the foot's a non-issue. He's getting a little bit of work in the slot, mostly on the outside. Again, to the steal of the Tomlin term, I think the arrow is pointed up for James Washington.
Yeah, and this guy, I told him I was going to make him famous. Underscore born to win underscore on Twitter was just saying he's watched a couple of camp practices, buddy. Then got hurt yesterday. Granted, he back today, but still wasn't a fan of him before, during, or after draft. Don't be hurt when he don't pan out. Whew. That's worse punctuation than I used in a man needs to be introduced to a however comma in there. But look, I'm a big James Washington fan. Lord knows I've watched enough of his tape here. And what does it say about him being able to bounce back from an injury just that quick and have the kind of day that he had?
Well, I mean, obviously the injury wasn't very severe, just precautionary. But yeah, you're just seeing a guy that's not wasting reps. It's been out there for all but that little part of practice on Wednesday, and someone that's able to go from start to finish and look like the same guy. That's kind of how he was built coming out. So yeah, it's just been good, and he needs to rep as a rookie receiver to make mistakes and get better. And I think it's what you're seeing with James Washington.
And did you tell me about Damon Patterson? Did he have a bounce back day or no?
I would say no. There was another play where Landry had him on a crosser and he was open and it slipped through his hands again. It would have been a nice 40-yard touchdown. So, receivers drop passes, but to have almost the same thing happen in back-to-back days where you get open and it just goes right through your hands as you're trying to go over your shoulder. You don't want to see guys stack, bad plays and bad days. And so it's a little disappointing for Damon Patterson.
Speaking about right through your hands, that reminds me about Bucky Hodges. I mean, this is a guy that's a very inconsistent hands. I think he had something like a 53% completion rate, maybe that final season at Virginia Tech. I don't know what made me just think. I know why, because I have an animated GIF of one going a deep ball down the right side, going right through his hands there. So not a bounce back day for Patterson. What about Justin Hunter? Is he? I mean, this guy's notorious, at least the last year and a half now, being a good practice player.
Yeah, and that's really still what he is. He'll in one-on-ones, receiver DB, he'll look good and make some big plays, but in team, it gets a little bit tougher. There was a speed out that he ran that went through his hands. There was another contested catch, I think, against Hayden that Hayden broke up. Hunter's got the big frame and the catch radius, and he looks really good, but, at this point in his career, I'm not going to get super excited even if he does well in practice because we've seen the issues of it translating in the games, and I just think he is what he is. I think he's all bark and no bite.
All right, and let's see if we got all. What about quarterback position? Joshua Dobbs, not a great day according to your Twitter machine postings.
Yeah, if they just didn't have that final team session, maybe it would have been decent. But he threw 2 picks in the last team session, both bad balls, one to Dangerfield, one to Brian Allen, and maybe there was some issues with the receivers there. The intended receivers were Patterson and Thomas, so young guys. But after what I thought was his best practice on Wednesday, I think today was probably his worst practice, and that's not a good way to follow it up.
All right, Mason Landry.
I don't have a whole lot there. I thought Rudolph was doing a couple nice things of being able to extend the play, keep his eyes downfield. I do want to see that internal clock get a little bit faster, understanding what his protection is, understanding blitzes. There was one empty set today, so 5-man protection against the blitz. Keith Kelsey came off the edge. Rudolph never gets the ball out. Kelsey swats it away, and it would have been a fumble. So you're looking for some adjustments there from Mason Rudolph. But another play where he scrambled to his left, kept his eyes downfield, found Justin Thomas on a 5-yard curl, throwing to his right, moving to his left. So there's good and bad, and that's what you'd expect. I know Kevin Colbert kind of talked about the quarterback pecking order right now, but I don't think those comments really were a surprise.
Yeah, they weren't surprising at all. Talking about Landry's number 2, Josh Dobbs number 3, and Mason number 4, and then he talked about how Mike Tomlin likes to, mix it up a little bit during practice, and you're seeing that, right? Landry not always running with the 2s, Josh not always running with the 3s. Is that correct?
Oh, absolutely. I wouldn't even really care to put an order on it right now because guys mix and match so much. It rotates on a daily basis, depends what Ben's doing. Today was a half day for him. There's days where he gets an off day. So generally speaking, there's 3 quarterbacks per practice that get some serious time. And then there's a 4th that doesn't, whether that's Rudolph, who only gets a couple of attempts, or Landry, or Ben with a day off. So that's the mentality they seem to take is 3 guys get to work, but they mix and match teams all the time.
All right, let's switch over to the defensive line, and we already said that Mike Tomlin's more impressed with the interior of the offensive line as opposed to the interior of the defensive line. I view that as more of, he says things like that purposefully to get it out there so the players read it. So in other words, that was him throwing down the gauntlet, wanting to see more out of the defensive line on Friday. So that's what we'll expect. In the meantime, I understand Dan McCullers got mad today.
Yeah, dude, I am so happy Dan McCullers got into a fight. I didn't think I'd ever say that about wanting to see someone fight, but him and Parker Collins got into it. I don't know exactly what started it. I know there was an earlier rep where Collins got his helmet torn off. I don't know if that was McCullers doing or what, but dude, I want to see McCullers be Patrick Swayze in Roadhouse. I want to see him be, Bruce Willis on Nakatomi Building. I want to see someone talking about his mama or, his lawn. I don't know, just something to get him fired up. I love seeing McCullers get into a fight. I'm telling you, he's been better this year. I mean, not great, still backup nose tackle caliber, but somebody that's got a little fire under him. And dude, I love seeing that.
Speaking of Bruce Willis, did you watch the Comedy Central roast?
I didn't. I heard it. Is it good?
It actually is good. And I will go out of my way to watch these roasts.
I love Jeff Ross. He's a great roast.
I love Jeff Ross. I mean, I don't want to get too far off track here, but you'll enjoy this one, especially get the one with all the dirty words in it, the version with all the dirty words in it, because I think I think it adds to it quite a bit. I think you'll enjoy that, and I think about that. I thought about it. I know you're a big Die Hard fan, so
yeah, I love Willis.
And he has there's a quote in there about them saying about it's not a Christmas movie.
I heard that breaks my heart.
But regardless, okay. Anything else on the defensive line?
That's the bulk of it. I think again more of the same. Alulu gets some pressure. Stephon Tuitt actually got handled by RJ Prince in one-on-one, so that's new. But Cam Hayward, does his thing against BJ Finney, and yeah, more of the same from that group.
All right, outside linebacker, of course, no Watt. Another gold star for Dupree on the field, man. And it sounds like, and look, going back to him versus Chooks and him winning, we would expect that, right? I mean,
Hmm.
that we would be disappointed, even more so, I guess, where it comes to Dupree, if he wasn't getting the best of Chooks right now. So I'm glad to hear that. I mean, just he just needs to continue down on his path. Now we know who Chiclo is. We'll see what Dupree has to offer during the preseason and all like that, and talk about what's behind him.
Yeah, I thought Keon Adams is jumping out to me, both as a pass rusher, but especially against the run. Now, maybe some of that is the matchup. I think he had one rep against, I believe it was Hodges or maybe McKever, where it's kind of an easier win. But I see Adams make an impact against the run. I like his hand use as a pass rusher. We've talked about that before. Yeah, Dupree beating, core four. It's not really a surprise, but it's good to see Dupree win and hopefully a good learning opportunity for a core four to get better. Those are the two main ones I wanted to touch on. Chicolo is always Chicolo, kind of always an impressive guy in camp, but doesn't always translate. Huguenin, a little bit better day today. Adenier, I didn't see much of, but he's back after missing a couple days, so that's good to see for him.
All right, inside linebacker, Bostic, second day in a row, right?
Yeah, and I'm guessing this was all planned, where you were going to have Matakevich get the first bulk of practices and then go Bostic.
I agree, and we've talked about that battle in reference to old Ferrier versus Fiala thing. I think this is going right on schedule here with all this, and they're going to let them sort it out. Mostly during the preseason here. I would not be surprised if Matakevich starts the first game and Bostic starts the second game. So
Yep.
now with Leslie out of the picture, everybody moves up one spot. I'm guessing. So we're probably going to see a lot of Galambos and a lot of Kelsey, right, against the Eagles.
Yeah, now you're down to 7 inside guys. So, I mean, the top groups are still the same. It just now a spot opens up in third team next to Matthew Thomas for Galambos and Kelsey. I think Galambos and Kelsey have both kind of flashed at times against the run. I'm not going to offer you a ton in coverage, but yeah, well, they'll get a lot of burn in the second half of this one.
All right, now obviously with Burnett and Davis, and man, you think about Burnett and this hamstring injury makes you think back to Mike Mitchell in that first season in Pittsburgh with
Yep.
that groin. You'd like to get your new guy on the field sooner rather than later, and hopefully he can here fairly soon to start working with some of the other guys there. Obviously Davis moving positions to to free and not getting a lot of reps. You just don't like hearing about that kind of stuff, even if they aren't considered serious injuries. Tell us about the guys who are there and about 7 DBs you're seeing on the field now.
Yeah, that's the direction I really wanted to go in, mainly for the safety group. One, I want to talk about Terrell Edmonds. I think he's having good days. You watch him one-on-ones. I mean, he looks like a corner out there. That's how he covers, whether that's against, Juju. Juju ran, I think, a post corner that Edmonds blanketed, and then there was a vertical to James Washington that Edmonds played the pocket of and broke it up. So another impressive day in those elements for Edmonds. Again, one-on-ones, it's a drill that's slanted towards the offense heavily, but I think in the couple times I've watched it happen over camp, Edmonds continues to impress and continues to force breakups, which is just rare to do, especially for a rookie. Mike Hilton at safety. I'm not saying you have to play him there, but I think he'd be a pretty good free safety. That dude is such a good open field tackler, and someone that plays vicious and plays hard every single snap. But to get to the 7 DBs, they had some time today, which is 6, and they had some 7 DB looks as well, where both inside linebackers stayed off the field. When they went dime, for whatever it's worth, the inside linebacker that stayed on the field was Vince Williams, and John Bostic came off. So, and I've thought about this before, to be honest. Why can't Vince Williams be the 3-down guy compared to Bostic and Matakevich? Is it that Matakevich and Bostic are really more athletic than Vince Williams? Not really. And Williams is super comfortable in this defense. So I've always thought about that. Why does Williams have to always be the odd man out?
I think Bostic moves a little bit better than him still. I mean,
I think it's close.
I'm not saying that I would, that it's not close. That if you ran them against each other, 10 times, I think it'd be slightly, to Bostic's favor. But I mean, I get where you're coming from because, look, they're not fleet of foot guys anyway. Neither one of them.
Right. Sure.
And look, I mean, you go back to Vince and his college tape. Now, look, has he gotten a little bit better? I mean, he was pulled off the field at FSU, and I know that's years ago, blah, 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 but he did not have much of a COD,
Mm-hmm.
and he really still doesn't. I mean, I still, I think Vince Williams still moves great downhill point A to point B. But anything else, especially on his drops and stuff like that, well, really all of them, none of them are Shazier,
Sure.
obviously. But okay, I get that. But here's one other thing that I wanted to ask you in regard to that, in the 7 DBs. We see in mostly a kind of a quarters, look in this situation. Did you notice any? I mean, are we seeing some pattern match, or too hard to tell, or what?
Yeah, honestly, I was just trying to get down all the names of who was out there and who wasn't on the field. I didn't get a good feel for coverage, so maybe they'll run a little bit of that in the game, and we can get a little better idea from there.
They're playing off.
I think in that situation they were off, yeah, but they've pressed, they've mixed it up. I think maybe they'll be a little bit more aggressive with Tom Bradley and Keith Butler this year than last year, but it's just important to get a mix rather than just doing one thing over and over again.
Sure, and how many times do you remember seeing that? Not much last year, right? Charting that?
Yeah, I honestly couldn't tell you. I mean, I don't chart specifically if guys are in press or not. Maybe that's something
No,
I should.
I'm talking about the seven DBs.
Oh, they ran that 3 times last year in Week 17 against Cleveland. Cam Sutton became the 7th DB, but maybe that is something you can run more because you have an influx of talent at safety with Edmonds, especially playing well, and the inside linebacker spot is a little bit weaker right now. So you're definitely going to see dime 3rd and 5 plus like usual, no question about that. The 7 DBs, though, I'd love to see it. The more athletes on the field, the better. I think you're off.
And you're mostly going to see that in 2nd and long and 3rd and long situations.
Yeah, and I think honestly it'd be 3rd and long plus unless it's a 2-minute drill or some sort of pass obvious situation. Like dime last year was only used 3rd 5 plus unless it was a 2-minute offense. So, but that's your critical get off down. And give me the athletes, give me guys that can cover and guys that can go sideline to sideline.
And it would make sense that your guys down in the box in those situations are going to be guys like Edmonds and guys like Burnett.
Yeah, the only disappointing thing about the dime today was you're not entirely sure who's leading what because obviously no Davis, no Burnett. Cam Sutton becomes the dime backer, but is he going to be the dime backer when everyone is healthy, or is that going to be Edmonds or whatever the case is? So it's a little hard to tell exactly who's doing what, but you're seeing it out there and seeing a desire to do it, and that's interesting to observe.
And the thing about Mike Hilton goes back to what you just said a little while ago. Mike Tomlin was asked this, what's leading to seeing a little bit of Mike Hilton in some safety? Well, A, they need bodies to take reps, right?
Yep.
And B, Mike Tomlin said he's a good tackler. So there you go. And the more you hear about things like that, break glass in case of emergency type things. I mean, I wouldn't expect us to see any other unless something happens with guys like Hilton. But you got guys like, when we talk about Cam Sutton and the ability to be a chess piece, or
Yep.
there's a guy that you should be able to move around, especially later, second half of this upcoming season, probably
Right.
more so than the first. In my opinion, you want to get him on the field and get him and some of these younger guys comfortable playing at least one position, and then go from there. But I mean, it just gives you options there, and it's just another reason. I hate to keep going back to this, man. What's Marcus Allen doing? Is there enough there to even think right now that he's going to be an option?
Yeah, he's got to cut his teeth on special teams. I don't think he's going to be an option in the defense this year. One last thought, and maybe I don't know how much more you want to go into a discussion about it, but let's say Sean Davis gets hurt this year. Let's say it's week 5. Who becomes the free safety? Could it be possible, and I'm just thinking of this now, that you move Mike Hilton to free safety and give Cam Sutton a spot at the slot? Because I think Sutton's going to be capable of it. They want to find ways to get Sutton on the field. And I honestly think that Hilton can be a good free safety.
Gee, that makes my brain hurt, but and I hope we don't have to get to that. But here's the thing: is Mike Hilton so good off that edge too?
Yeah.
Do you want to lose that? Do you want to lose the aspect of him being able to play good down low against the run and be a look? I mean, he's not in a lot of tackles, but I mean, he had 2 or 3 stops last year, Hilton, against the run.
Yeah, I think Minnesota was one.
So I mean, that something that we'll have to see how Sutton. I'd be more apt maybe to put Sutton back there.
Yeah, but he's not getting the reps. I mean, he'd have to
Yeah.
get the reps. I know. I mean, I agree that it would make some sense. But I'm just saying, if not Hilton, then you're moving Burnett because Edmonds is a strong safety. He's playing strong safety. He's not playing free this year, so it's Burnett or Burhay.
Yeah, I would think Burry's got some limited experience at free. I would. It wouldn't. To me, it wouldn't be Hilton right off the bat. I wouldn't think.
Okay, I'm just throwing it out there. I think I just my own 2 cents.
Yeah, let's hope we don't. Let's hope we don't get to that and have to find out
Yeah.
anytime soon. Okay, winners and losers.
Well, to go to the corners real quick, I know we ramble on about the DBs, but Artie Burns had a great day. First day back, I would definitely put him on the winners list. I forgot to do my winners and losers list, so I'll go with Burns as a winner. For a loser, again, Patterson, stacking bad days. You don't like to see that. Josh Dobbs had 2 picks, so I think those 2 guys would probably be on my losers list.
All right, pump up. Tell people about Lynn and touring plans.
Yep, touringplans.com. Great people. Len Tesla's been a big friend and sponsor of the site for a couple of years now. If you're planning a trip to Disney with the family, that's the group you want to go through to make that experience as least chaotic as possible. We might have Tim Rice for the weekend. I don't think we're going to have him Friday Night Lights tomorrow, but again, appreciate all that Tim has done for us. Appreciate all the support. And Lamar Jackson threw his first touchdown pass, so congrats to Lamar Jackson.
Yeah,
Colorado.
I know better than to jinx this, but I'm going to do it anyway. Hopefully Saturday night, Alex and I will be talking to cornerback Trey Johnson, the undrafted free agent out of Villanova, who was recently waived injured with a shoulder injury, cleared waivers, and placed on IR. I talked to his representation today. They said he's had shoulder surgery. There's not going to be an injury settlement with him. They told me he's going to spend the season on IR and then get after it again next year. So Trey hopefully will join us for, 10, 12 minutes maybe Saturday night, and that'll be part of that wrap-up podcast, so that might run a tad long, but I think it might be worth it. People hear from Trey Johnson there. So we'll tease that a little bit for you ahead of time, and hopefully I just didn't jinx it, and hopefully it stays scheduled. So in the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. You can follow Alex Kozora on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you want to donate to the cause, go to SteelersDepot.com. Hit that donate button, upper right navigational bar. We're on Spreaker now, too. Get that app. Get that Spreaker app. It helps us out a little bit if you listen to the show via the app. Or if you listen to it via the player in the post on SteelersDepot.com. I know a lot of you don't listen to it that way, but if you do, listen to the player on in the post, or go get that Spreaker app, probably wherever you download your apps from, iTunes Store or whatever. That'll help us out tremendously as well. Alex will be back with me on Friday night. Actually, no, we're going to are we going to bypass Friday Night Lights, being it's late?
Probably no podcast tomorrow.
Right, probably no podcast tomorrow night because it's such a late night for Alex there. So we'll plan on getting back after it on Saturday there. David, Todd, and I should be together Friday morning for the normal podcast. And as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and tonight Alex Kozora. Good night.